and I am not all knowledgeable as far as this matter is concerned. But what I would like to share with us today is it's information mainly as it relates to insurance, which one can use to build their wealth. Are we going to be able to do this? I mean, I could do it without. All right, let's continue. We're going to go on. First thing I would like to share with us, there are some of us who might not be aware, but normally when you hear about insurance, life insurance, you think it's only when somebody passes that monies are paid. I'm alive, there's life insurance being paid. As far as I'm concerned, I pass, and an entity, an individual, somebody gets a lot of money. And that is subjective too, because for me, my $10 could be a lot of money, but your $100,000 might be. All right, so I am here today to share and explain that there are different types of life insurance, different types of life insurances. Another thing I would also want to touch on is also that there's, as we build the walls of the family, there's also what we can have, what we call health insurance, and the church can actually acquire a type of health insurance which will benefit the entire church. This might be interesting to some, in that you may have gone to an institution to ask for life insurance, or for health insurance, and you may have heard, well, you can't get it because you probably can't afford it. Individually doing this might be more expensive than if it is that a group, an organization, an association, a church might do it. And so I want to share a little bit about that also. And so, yeah, let's go. The first type of life insurance that I want to talk about, let me just mention, there are generally three types of life insurance. There's term life insurance, there are whole life insurance, and there are endowment insurance. And I literally just call them out in the order in which as it relates to an individual who is a particular age and takes up one of that type of insurance for the same amount of coverage, what it would cost in terms of term being the cheapest, whole life being a tad more expensive, and the endowment life insurance policies being the more expensive of the three. There are also hybrid ones, but let's talk mainly about those three. And so the first one, term. That's basically saying, and if we have somebody who wants to be a guinea pig, if we are able to display things on the screen, if we have somebody who wants to be a guinea pig, we're there. They can. Even if not an individual, we can actually just find the age group and throw the information up there, and then do some comparisons as it relates to, if I'm going to be insured for a $250,000, and I'm age 25, I'm age 30, I'm age 40, what would be the cost of a term? What would be the cost of a whole life policy? And what would be the cost of an endowment policy? Same figures being considered, same age being considered. That would be instructive. That would be nice, I feel. But of course, that's if we can get it up there for everybody to see, as well as I can do it here and talk about it. So, term policies. As the name suggests, they are for a specific term, a specific point in time. So you can be insured for any amount. So with Sagicor, we're talking from 100,000 going up. And an individual who's, say, between 20 and 30 can get up to $500,000. That's like $500,000, you can relate, to and only be paying between $100 actually to as much as $130, and that's $500,000 for the age range I just mentioned. All right. Now, for persons who are a little older, the range again could then be for $130 to $160 something dollars. And the interesting thing about it is basically saying, look, in the event I pass, which we are all expected to, providing we don't get taken up, or the law doesn't come before, and we've been hearing he's going to be coming for a while, in his time, and until such time, we may pass along the way. And if we do, most likely, we may, you can set up your family in such a way that they get a good sum of money. One, if it is you have young children, you can ensure that they have monies to carry them to school. If it is you had taken some insurance to address a house, a loan or something, that house could be fully paid for. And again, as it relates to term, it's for specific term. So you can have this term insurance for, say, 20 years. You can have the insurance for 25, 21. Let me see. Our lowest terms is actually a 10-year period based on the fact that the individual is as old as age 70, so that they can be covered to age 80 for a particular term, because our term ends at age 80. Now, I hear earlier, while the introduction was being made, that there is the thought process that you may be too old. I don't see anybody in here right now who's too old for life insurance, different types of life insurance that we may have. All right. Now, another thing that we just spoke about the term, so then we're going to now move on to the whole life. You can get the same coverage like I mentioned. Now, because it's you being covered for your whole life instead of a term, it becomes more expensive. It has cash values that builds up in there. Basically, it's saying as you pay your $130, Ms. Griffin, I know for a while, Ms. Griffin will pay her $145 for her $250,000. And she pays that until she passes, and then her family members benefits. But as she pays that money, some of that premium would be would be put aside in the plan where she can actually access that to get a loan. It's not like you're going to a bank and they say, oh, you have to bring this and you bring that, and you have to have somebody to sign for you. And yeah, because it's your premium, monies that you've been paying as you're going along, you would be able to access that fund. You come, you say, look, I need to get some money. We don't even need to know the reason. And you can get that money. Because it's a whole life policy, the cash values may take a while to build, but once they do build, you have access to it. All right, again, one of the reasons I think that it's so easy, it's because the insurance has to make investments with the funds, so that when you pay your $145 and you hear we have to pay $250,000, it's like, well, these deposits on a monthly basis, there's no way that it's going to come and add up to $250,000 over your lifespan. But because of investments, they're able to do that. And so now if it is while they're doing that and they're investing and you want to come and borrow and they are saying no, you suddenly become the investment. And so, yes, it's granted to you as a loan. You might want to think, it's my own money. I've been paying this money. I've been putting it. It's my money. It's a loan. It was actually meant to be invested so that the promise could be fulfilled. You pay your premiums, your $145 small dollars, and your $250,000 get paid. Even if after being approved one day and an individual passes, that money must be paid. Because it's a promise. You come to Sagicor Insurance or any other insurance company for that matter, and you go like, I am going to give you for this month of June $145, $100. And if I pass, you're telling the insurance company, if I pass, then I want you to give my family, and I'm just calling figures here, $250,000. All right. June passes, because I would have already paid, and I don't die. It's not my time as yet. And so the promise has been fulfilled. The insurance takes you $145 or your $100, and that's it for that month. You then decide if you want to continue with the plan, with the arrangement of saying, okay, we're now in July, I'm going to give you $100 or $145 for the $250,000. And those two figures I'm calling, remember, it's based on age. $100 for $250,000 in coverage, $145 for $250,000 in coverage. It's because the individual who's paying $100 is younger than the other person who is paying the $145. That's clear? Tell me how you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, and the reason why I'm bringing this out about you paying your premium for this month and then the following month you start again, following month. The reason why I'm doing this is because I have heard people say, so when the term is ended, and I've paid for the 20 years or the 10 years, 15 years, however long my agreement was, what am I going to get back? And it's that you would have paid for this service on a monthly basis ongoing. And so on that 20th anniversary or 15th anniversary, when it is that you had that term and you're no longer supposed to make any payment, that is what the promise was, that up to this point, you give and you're covered if you pass. The fact that you didn't pass, the time has ended because you would have signed that contract, and then they say, well, we are not going to continue this agreement anymore because, yes, this is the time that you signed for. We can't pay you back any money. You can't get back any money because you would have paid for the service. It's like you catch a bus to go to Gingerland, and when you reach to Gingerland, having paid, you go like, well, I'm jumping out of the bus now. May I have my $5 back? No, can't happen. Paid for the service, that's the service that you paid for. All right? So I know I won't hear anyone in here go like, well, I don't pay for all this time. Well, where the money now? How come I can't get the money? Because you did not pay for that type of policy. However, moving on to the endowment. Remember, term, whole life policies, and endowment policies. Now these, I like these ones, investment policies. You're paying, and we're using the same figure, $250,000, $500,000, or $500,000, $500,000. The premium where an individual would have paid the $140, because now this plan is set up where you're endowed for a specific period, meaning that if you pass during the time you're insured for, and you can indicate times, our times are 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, to age 60, to age 65, or to age 70. So basically you're saying, at those points in time, I want to be paid a set amount of money. You decide how much you want to be paid, consider in your pocket, of course, and having agreed on the premium, you would know, well, if I pass any time leading up to when I'm age 60 or age 65 or whatever it is, the beneficiary, my beneficiary, somebody I name, and you can name any beneficiary, by the way. Let me just make that clear. You can name your husband, your child, your church, me. You don't have to know me, just give me a little change. Yeah. So you get to name your beneficiary. And it is basically, if you pass before you reach the age that you want it to be endowed for, then the entity or the individual who you say should be paid or should get that fund gets it. And let me touch on this quickly because it has to do with finance too. There are people who have wills and that kind of things. You cannot will your insurance amount to an individual having already named the beneficiary in there. All right? So if it is that you have life insurance and you would have named the beneficiary, and it shouldn't happen, but people have followed. Yeah, shouldn't happen. Or maybe the person passes. Remember, once you've named the beneficiary, unless you go back and change that beneficiary, that is who is going to be paid. And I'm going to talk about this. We're in church. We should be all good and so in here, but there are times when family separate. Mom and dad, they're not together, they were married, and insurance is there. Dad's name he's the beneficiary. They've separated, trying to reconcile, but before they do, somebody passes. That money goes to the individual. So these are things to be mindful of. All right? Just thought I'd mention that. All right, so why I like the endowment is because as you pay, you are going to be getting the amount that you're insured for. And it's instant coverage while you build yourself up. You might tell yourself, I want at age 60, providing I live that long, God allows me the time, age 65, I want to have accomplished house and land and all these things. And so you do a life insurance. You have a family, especially if you have a family. You don't want your family to be saddled with expenses and all that kind of stuff. And so you can say, well, I'm going to be insured for this amount. So if I make it well, that money would be there for me. And if I don't make it, the funds become available suddenly, like instantly, for my beneficiaries, my family, the people I care about. I know very few people who do life insurance to benefit people who are not people I care about, yeah. Sometimes you have to, like you have to assign your insurance to the bank, but again, it's for a good reason. Your insurance covers the cost or the funds that might be outstanding if it is you had a loan, and so, yeah, you pass. Instead of the bank taking the home, your family has nowhere to live, they get their cash. Any extra cash that's in there, then it comes back to the beneficiaries who are named on the plan. So you can have an assignment to a bank with 2 beneficiaries. The assignment, that person or that individual, that entity gets their funds, and then the difference goes to the beneficiaries. All right. Oh, and again, this is just along with it being a presentation. This is where you can ask any question at any point or any concerns. If anybody have any burning issue, you don't have to wait until, yes, jump in at any time. Let's go.
So, when you were talking about the term life policy.
Excuse me, are we all able to hear?
So when you were talking about the term life policy, and you said that if it is the agreement, if it is the agreement that you pay, let's say for 15 years.
Yes.
And if the person dies within that period of time, they would benefit. 15 years has passed, and the person is still living, and they're saying, well, what about the funds? Well, what really happened? It just stays there in an escrow until the person dies at 40 or 50, then it kicks in? How does it work?
No. The term policies, as I said, remember the funds are paid, premiums are paid, and it is that, and let's use figures, $250,000 if I'm to pass. I have a term for 15 years. I have a 5-year-old. I'm going to just nice up the scenario. I have a 5-year-old, and I say, well, I want, if I pass within the next 15 years, I want to ensure that $250,000 gets paid out to my beneficiary, being my 5-year-old or the mother of my 5-year-old. Choices. You have choices. So that, yes, education, I'm not there, but the financial aspects of it are taken care of. All right? Could also even start a nice little building of his own later. But the point is, if I'm not there for the next 15 years, then yes, that money would be paid. Now, the premium that would be charged for that, I can assure you, at your age, it's going to be less than $200. My age, less than $200. And $250 would be paid. So every time a payment is made, it's put into the fund, the Sagicor fund, and they have to invest this fund so that in the event you pass within that 15 years, $250,000 could be paid. Very often it might not be that $250,000 has been generated, but the payment has to be made nonetheless, and so yes, they have to invest. So the question, if I understand it correctly, is in the event you don't last for that 15 years that you have done the insurance for, the period.
No, you live beyond the 15 years.
Oh, okay, good. So once the 15 years has ended, the contract is ended. So you have a choice. You can start a new policy because that contract has been ended. You didn't pass, that's a good thing. The 5-year-old was able to appreciate and have you around, supporting, ensuring that everything is paid for that 15 years while you were there. So Sagicor never did have to fill in. And the promise was fulfilled, as I pointed out. $200 less than every month. And every month, if I had passed, then the $250,000 would have been paid. So the fact that you live beyond that point, the contract has ended, there is no money to come to you. Sagicor no longer wants your less than $200, and Sagicor also no longer has that obligation to pay you that $250,000. Does that answer the question?
So that's it. So all that money go?
And that is why I explained earlier, when I started, I said, for this period, I am paying for June. If I pass in June, yes, if I pass in June, I want $250,000 to be paid to my beneficiary, my 5-year-old child. If I don't pass, keep the below $200 that I'm going to give you.
I guess it's almost like the insurance of cars, eh?
To
So
some
all this time you're paying X amount per year for insuring a vehicle, and you never make it in an accident, but you really don't get back much.
Sometimes you don't get back anything because nothing happened in that period. If you want to benefit,
Have an accident?
die. and such is the term insurance. So, and remember I said this one is very cheap, but it's very effective. When I was younger, and with my 2 girls coming up, believe me, there was no way I had any $500,000 in my account, but I was paying my $132, and if I had passed, then my girls would have almost been millionaires, almost, because I only did half of the million. So, and like I'm going to be honest, I had no concerns, no issues of the thought that, well, the fund would not be there. One, I don't know if any of us has done any building recently, and maybe we could just. So, if any of us had done any building or gone for any loan or anything, and the fact that you don't have the money, you would have gone to the bank. I mean, there's some people who have it, it's okay, don't touch it, but give me some. There's some people who does not have the funds, they don't have the money. And so the bank says, okay, we can give you the $250,000 that you want, or the $300,000 that you want, but we really want our money. We don't want, when you're finished building the house or whatever it is you're constructing, or car you're buying, whatever it is, we don't really want that. We want our money back. And so we want you to get some life insurance, because the thought process is if you die, they will be paid. And this is experience. I didn't mention it earlier, I'll mention it now. Sagicor has been around for 180 years. I think it's 82 now, perhaps. But they've been around so long. And the point I'm trying to make is that if Sagicor hadn't been fulfilling these promises when people reach age 80, that they get their beneficiaries paid when they pass and that kind of stuff, Sagicor would have been around so long. Some of us may be here long enough to have heard about the British American. There was an insurance company on the island here, the Federation, and they went under, yes. Now, some of those same policies that were with British American, Sagicor was able to buy them over. Some people lose a lot of money. I had 2 policies there. I remember I lost one, but there was one that was bought over. And interesting, yeah, a little quick story, yeah, my little quick story. So, British American went down. Sagicor bought it over. I hadn't been paying any insurance for, I think it was about 6 to 7 years. And then they come to me, Sagicor, yeah, and telling me, okay, your policy is good and you should continue paying. I'm like, what? No, we ain't doing this. So, the person was very persistent. They kept talking and they go like, well, you know, but you have a policy there, there's money that comes out every month, it's still active and you can, I said, okay. So you're saying for these 7 years I hadn't paid anything into British American because the thing closed off. And Sagicor has now taken it over. Sagicor strong, Sagicor who has been around for all this time, I'm just saying. So I was like, okay, I'm hearing that there's a policy that continued for 7 years and that there's money there and you want me to continue paying. So can I get some money out of that? Yeah, that was my question. And the lady was like, yeah, that's what we're saying. It's your money you can borrow from this. And so I said, okay, because I still didn't believe. Give me it was $2,500. And it took 3 days. They called me for a check. And man, if you all know the first Caribbean check, they're just not normal. They're not normal. When she presented me with the check, it was big. And I thought the joke continued. You said, you're playing with me, you know. She said, Alvis, this is for real. I took the check, didn't waste any time, went straight to First Caribbean. They're not even here anymore. But Sagicor is still around. So, the cash... I got the cash, by the way, just saying that. Got the $250,000 cash. And when I was building my other house, things had get a little tight, a little jiggy and so I went back for more money. So I started paying, and that is the same insurance policy I used to construct my other home. So yeah, it works. Insurance, as far as I have experienced, and it's something I believe in. You did mention about not knowing much. Alvis has been in the insurance business for about a good 30 years. I know I look like I'm 31, but if I've been in there for 30 years, you know that means I'm even more older. So it was with Social Security, and I recognize and understand and appreciate the importance and relevance of that. That's wage insurance. So if you're out there, you're working, you lose some income because you become sick, Social Security pays you. I believe in that. I've seen it help people. People pass and monies get paid to them. Not a lot, but they get paid. And so whilst I'm not there, because I believe in insurance, I've seen it work. Sagicor. I had an option to do national, not knocking national. I had an option to do national also, but Sagicor was around longer, and so I thought, yeah, let's try to get with this, what appears to be the stronger one, and so I'm here. And again, I've studied what they're doing. Oh, what? Did I just say I'm not knocking anything? No, I did say all insurance. I didn't even know that. Welcome. Yeah, so insurance is good. We have all benefited, I believe, in some way. Even the small little ones who ain't even able to make payments because their parents would have made payments, they're benefited. So yeah, I think the point I was making is that it's going to work. The funds will be available in the due time. And again, remember, as I said, at any point we have any questions, feel free to ask. I am prepared to respond at any point. So we went through the, oh, sorry, I have to come back faster. The question you asked about the money and it all done, and so we appreciate that it's for a specific period, specific point in time, specific reason, and so that's the contract. Now, national. I do not know if other companies do this, but our term plans, you are allowed to convert your policy from a term to a whole life policy or to an endowment policy. It depends on, everything is still dependent on age though, because remember I said the younger you are, the cheaper this thing could be. The longer you take to do life insurance, the more expensive it is. And it's not just your age that determines the cost. It also speaks to whether or not you are healthy. Insurance like to insure healthy people, as bad as it sounds. If you're not healthy, chances are you are either one, going to hear, no, we cannot insure you. You may hear, two, we can insure you, but you'll have to pay an extra amount, what we call a rated figure, because you get the little diabetes and so. Or you have on a little bit too much weight. We can insure you, but we have to charge you a little extra. And of course, that last one is like, well, boy, we just really can't take you on. All right? And having said that, I want to just jump right over to the other type of policy we have called the peace assured policies. Those policies speaks to individuals who are, it does not matter the condition. Remember I told you insurance is concerned with age and health. All right? So if you are ill, if you have cancer, chances are you try to get a general coverage, you will hear no, you cannot get it because the thought process is that you're expected to pass and you will not last out that 15 years, and so the company will have to pay them out and they're going to get a little trouble and they're going to want to take you. All right, because you have something. So we have this policy called a peace assured. Whereas, as I spoke earlier, I mentioned my $250,000. You hear me talking about $500,000, and so with this peace assured, you do not have to concern with how or what condition you have, but you cannot get that high coverage. The lowest coverage they start at $20,000, and the highest the coverage can go is to is to $60,000. So it's $20,000 to $60,000. Now, it's a good policy to have. It speaks to individuals who are between 18 and age 80. Persons who are between age 18, not 80, age 18 and age 70 can get that policy, no matter what happened to you. So let me kind of explain this here a little bit. I have my sick brother who is in the hospital, and the doctor has given him 3 years to live. And there's a purpose why I say 3 years. Based on whatever studies they don't do, 3 years. This policy allows for you to be, you must be covered for at least 2 years to get the full benefits. I can decide that I want to insure my brother's life, who has 3 years to live, where normally he will not get any insurance at all because he's expected to pass within 3 years. Of course, miracles happen, it could be longer. But yes, 3 years. And so he gets insured because it's allowed. He will be insured. The first year, and I have to mention too, whereas the $250,000 would cost between the 100 and 145 based on the age range you were talking about earlier, this individual, dependent on age, may have to pay a little bit more or maybe the same amount of money for just between 20 and 60,000, not the 250. Because why? Something wrong with him. 3 years, doctor said he gone. So first year, all the money that gets paid in, if he passes within that period, gets paid back to the beneficiary, whomever it is. I might do it for my brother, and so you're more than likely I will be the beneficiary, more than likely. Could name somebody else, but yeah, it's me money. So in the second year, the same thing happens. Whatever I put in gets paid out. You realize at some point, probably within the 3 years, or maybe a little bit after, my brother is expected to pass. And so everything falls on me to have to bury him. I'm going to do it. I'm going to have to be the one. So in a sense, this is how you can look at it, is that the premium that I'm paying to Surgical on a monthly basis, is the amount that I'm kind of saving. I'm putting it aside. I'm putting it there. And every month, I'm hoping that he lives. And while, I mean, at the same time, we're at church and we are praying for his health to recover. And yeah, because we don't want our loved ones to go, no. So the second year, money is just building up there. And we can call it, we can say in 2 years' time, we may have saved $2,000. So what Sajiko is saying, if the person passes within 2 years, that full money, that full full $2,000 gets paid back to, or paid to the beneficiary once they pass. But in the third year, let me rephrase that and say, after the second year is ended, so the very next day, next month, going forward, whatever the amount of coverage was, let's say it was for $30,000. I just gone in between there. That $30,000 becomes available instead of the $2,000 that was put in. We now have available the $30,000, which can take care of final expenses. Yes, final expenses are now kind of high. I think the lowest you can get someone buried for is actually $1,200. No, I hear. So I hear. But people don't do that. People gone up in $13,000 and $14,000 and $20,000 and so. But you can actually get it done for less. So in any case, 3 years pass. I mean, 2 years and a day pass. That $30,000 suddenly becomes available, and plus interest. Every single year that the individual lives for, we know that he was supposed to be 3 years. So, on that third year, he passes, and so $30,000 is available for an individual who was told upfront that they roughly only had 3 years to live. Now, if that person was healed because God saw it fit to do so based on our prayers, and he continues on, that 30,000 becomes 31,000, 32,000, 34,000, and it continues and goes and goes and goes. The longer the person lives, and your figure is not going to change. So your premium stays the same, and every year that passes, every month that passes, every day that passes, the individual's figure of beneficiaries of coverage increases. And this is a policy which an individual does not have to do anything for. Anybody in here could get one for themselves. If they already have insurance, they can get an additional coverage. Yes, I have 3 life insurances. Let me just mention that quickly. 3 of them for different reasons, different things are going on in my life. First one, tell her about the first one. First policy, I was young fellow, probably as young as he. Yeah. And they approached me and they told me it was a policy which was paid up at 65, I heard. So I'm still paying. Yeah. That wasn't the one that went down. I'm still paying for it. And the thought is when I reach age 65, I'm not going to have to pay anything anymore, and $150,000 will be available for my beneficiaries. Yeah. That had sounded like a lot of money to my young self. And then build my house now, coming to build the house. They asked me, you have insurance? I said, yes, I have insurance. House was going to cost $280,000 with help. Trust me, that day you would not get that done today. Just saying. So my $150,000 insurance wasn't saying anything because they wanted to make sure if I passed, they got their full amount of monies back. And so I had to do another life insurance. Yeah. So that's how I ended up with 2. And then sold that house. Family got bigger. And so did a bigger house. And again, more insurance, more money. And so, yeah, I have 3 life insurance policies. So even if you have one already, it's okay to do another one. And National is here, and I'm sure National would agree. You don't have to put all your eggs in one basket. So if you have a National insurance, you can get a Sagicor insurance too. And if you have a Sagicor insurance, you could get a National insurance too. I'm just saying. And it depends on what's going on with you. Mrs. Sirens, you mentioned something? Let me bring the mic. It's not for everybody. Okay. All right. So, that's me generalizing. Term policies, whole life policies, endowment policies. All right. And then, of course, we spoke about the peace assured, which, again, anybody between 18 and 70. Things that you would normally need: 2 pieces of insurance, 2 pieces of ID, proof of address, the premium, and then you make your application. It's simple as that. The thing, however, is that very often you might hear the underwriters, because what we do, people like myself, we collect information and then we pass it on to people who looks at the information, and then they decide if it is that the individual could be considered for the coverage. If everything is okay with them, the age is right. Sometimes they send you to do medical tests, which includes blood tests or urine tests. You may have to go to a doctor. The doctor asks you all kind of questions and so. And so if it is that you're not doing that type where they ask you all these questions, you can just do the peace assured where you do not have to worry about them, those kind of things. All right. Now, let's talk a little bit. Oh, by the way, any questions? Clear? Any questions? And plus, we can do this one-on-one. I am prepared. You see how I'm here today? I am prepared to show up somewhere that someone wants me to show up, where they want me to show up to discuss further. Or if it is they want to come to my office, that works also. It's opposite the sports zone, walk into the TDC and you go upstairs. For those who have been around for a while, where Lynn's used to have her snacket. Yeah. Yeah, Longstone building. Yes, in there somewhere. All right. And I'm not hearing any questions, so let's continue now to I did hear roughly time. I touched something here. We good? Hear me clearly? All right. So yeah, I'm a little concerned about the time. Just so that you know, I can go on. I can talk about insurance all night if you allow me. All right. So let's continue. We're now going to talk about the health insurance. Is this something that the church might be interested in, Pastor, you think? I don't know. I just thought I'd share it. Sorry. Again, it's where the church could come together, and not just one church, one section of the church, because I think there are different churches throughout the island. Yeah. So the ministers could get together and discuss this. I could come and sit and share too. But the third process is to ensure that there's health coverage for the members. Right? Where once you have, and it's a group policy, it suggests therefore that once we have a certain number, and our certain number is 5, you can have at least 5 persons who can be a part of a group, which would allow for a lot of different things. If you were to do individual insurance, the age becomes a factor where, dependent on your age, everything, insurance, you would pay a certain amount. And then, of course, there are tests that has to be done, checks that have to be done to make sure that you're healthy. Because again, remember I mentioned insurance insures healthy people. They like to do that. Also, when it comes to health insurance, individually, there's a point where it ends. As bad as this is, and I don't like it, but I'm not the boss because I would have changed it. Insurance actually ends as you get older. Health insurance, it ends, not life, I'm talking about health. It ends at age 70 in our office. National, you feel like you want to share? How long? Oh, okay. Probably because it's 60, I don't know. But the point is, it actually ends. And it's when you really want the health insurance, you know? Yeah, at age 70. When all kind of things could be wrong with you, you hear, well, bye. We really can't cover you anymore, you know. So, no, we don't want your money. No, it's okay. We can't cover you, we're not taking your funds. And so, individually or group? Individually. And so, that is individually. I'm telling you, as a group now, and there's a plus here, as a group, once you're in the policy, you're in the plan, you have the plan, the group can decide that even after, let's say you don't come to church anymore because you're not well, you can't show up. You guys will come to people and kind of spiritually encourage them and say, yeah, we go. Yeah, good. So let's say you're unable to, for businesses, you can no longer be a staff of a particular business, but you can still be on the group policy because the company allows it. So for association churches, you can actually be covered up to age 99 because you're part of a group. Remember, as I said, individually for Sagicor, it stops at 70. And I'm going to tell you about the competition. I am 95% sure that they stop at age 60. Or they don't even consider you at age 60. But I'm just sharing. It's not a bad idea to have a group if it's allowed. Now, remember I mentioned to you about physical checks, blood tests, pee in a cup, make sure your kidneys working and that kind of stuff. The insurance would want to do that if it is you have a small group or if you're doing this individually. But if collectively you have a church coming together, an association coming together, once you have more than 15 persons, no medical checks are needed. No medical checks are required. And so individuals can have issues and it's not a bother. The reason for that is because it's now like a collective group of people, a certain amount of money coming in, and the thought process is, whatever it is wrong, whatever it is that's wrong with these people in the group, or the premium that they're making should be sufficient to maintain the policy. All right? So that's key. And I feel like that's an excellent reason why, if it is we are able to, that the church could come together. This is something, it's just, like I said, I'm just sharing, that you guys could come together and consider this. There's more information that I could give. So what would happen, it would be that, yeah, so let me continue. Everybody could hear me still? Yeah. So, yeah, we are almost done. All right. So yeah, I was just sharing now some of the things that an individual can benefit when it comes to health insurance with Sagicor. We're talking about, and this is the group I'm mentioning, $1 million coverage available for everybody who's a part of the plan. This is major medical. It's a major medical plan. So we're talking Miss Griffin, $1 million for you, $1 million for your daughter if she decides, and if she's here, she's good lady there, $1 million. There's always consideration for age. If an individual is over age 65, then they are not eligible to be in the plan. However, if you're in there and you turn 65, continuing, it is not an issue because you're already in there. That's why I was saying to you guys, it's always important to get coverage as soon as one is able to. One can afford it. At the same time, you don't want to be spending money and fighting to get life insurance when it's difficult living. So, there are certain points when if you're able to, you can do it. You should do it. But if you're not able to, ask the Lord for additional protection and guidance. All right, so we have our $1 million in coverage. It also has air ambulance coverage in there, which is great if you ask me. We do not have all the facilities, medical innovations that are available to us in the Federation or even close to us. And so this air ambulance allows us to be taken to the areas where the coverage can be given, the closest point. And I can point out quickly, you might want to go somewhere. like the US, for example, but the coverage is possible in Antigua. Depending on where you want to go, the flight and the coverage might be more expensive. And so whatever coverage you have will be based on the nearest point, not based on you going to the US because you're more comfortable there. Mind you, they're not going to say you shouldn't go to the US if you want to go to the US. It's just that when the payment will be made, it will be based on the closest point where you could have gotten the service that was required based on your condition. That's clear? Yeah? All right. So nobody going to say you can't go because I feel better over so, but yeah, we only can pay for here. So there you have it. The $1 million. We have the air ambulance. And then there's the payback ratio for consideration. For small groups, it's 75% of whatever it is you spend. If it is a bigger group where you have more than 15 persons, yes, more than 15 persons, you now have a large group where you don't have to do any checks or anything, the payback rate could be 80%, 20%. All right. A card would also be given so that you can actually, having received the service, once it is that service provider has our equipment, you stick your card in there and you just see the 20% that you need to pay for it. That is if they have that service, because it's not everybody that is on board with it. But for those that are, you won't have to be paying $100 for the doctor visit. Maybe it's more expensive now. You just pay the $20 because the $80 would automatically be deducted based on whether or not that service provider have our devices. Yes?
So the devices are pretty much just on island. Once you head overseas, then you will have to find all that funds up front.
No. The devices are actually all over. As a matter of fact, as you go into the international sphere, it's actually more available out there than in our federation. Yeah, it's understood that yes, when and if, and this question, this is just me going on further now, along with coverage here, if it is you're overseas and you have the need for coverage, it's possible. And yes, you have your card. There are some persons who do not even get looked at by a doctor without the knowledge of insurance and your card, and that would definitely push things along. All right? I unfortunately don't know what that is. Uh-huh. Okay. Right. I think Four Seasons is actually attached to Sagicor too, so we have given them cards, yeah. So, yeah. Did I hear something? Okay. Now, in addition to the health aspect of it, this coverage, group insurance that I'm referring to, also has an element of life insurance attached to it. $50,000 could be there, $25,000 could be there in the event the beneficiary, the owner of the group policy, the person who's in there, they pass. So the beneficiaries could have that to assist with final expenses or any other thing, which whatever it is they choose to do. So along with that, there's also something called accidental death and dismemberment. If you were to lose members in an accident, monies could be paid to you. Again, that would be dependent on whatever it is the plan administrators decide on. So it's not a bad thing to do if it is that we are able to afford it.
Well, that's the question I'm coming to. What's
cost?
Yes, cost.
Yes. What I can say is it depends on the number of individuals who want to be a part of the plan. I have a small group of 9, and they are paying, if I recall correctly, the company is paying $173 for everybody, for like each individual. And again, life insurance is a part of it. The health insurance, air ambulance coverage for overseas. They can add members, they can add their family members and that kind of stuff, like the children, our spouses, our common law relationships also. So all of these things are part of the plan. But that's just for my 9. Dependent on the group, the size of the group, the premium could actually be lessened, dependent on the dynamics, the age group of the group. So it would be really for an individual to say, look, I have interests. These are the persons. These are the different ages. Give me a quote for this information.
Sorry, you said the 9 persons in the group, the premium is $173 per person?
Yeah.
Per month there.
Right. And that was, again, in consideration that it had their other family members who was going to be added. They had people who were attached, not just the employees. So it was actually more than 9 persons that was going to be covered for. Yeah. All right. Again, any questions, concerns, issues? Well, I would say, how much more time do I have?
We usually go hour and a half. Right?
How much time done pass?
We started at 10 past 6. So hour and a half after 10 past 6.
Okay. So, you're saying that there's no actual, like you can put up a real live thing. It would be the pen drive going up there. Put the presentation on the, okay. Sorry. I wanted to demonstrate different age groups and amounts and so.
About 15 minutes.
Sorry?
Yeah, 15 minutes.
No, it's not going to work like that unless I go up there, I guess. But if there are no other questions or no other concerns, I can call it a night.
I really wanted to see some figures.
Yeah. What I can say is, anybody who wants to have a one-on-one, I'm available. Yes, go right ahead. Yeah, the question, if I hear you correctly, is how do you determine the premium for each person? Is this for the health? Oh, it all depends on the age. It all depends on the age of the individual and the type of policy that they want and the coverage, the amount of coverage that they want. An individual can come and say, all right, Orvis, I have $100. What coverage can I get with this? I have $200. How much coverage? Because when I've done my budget, I have $200 available. I have $150 available. What kind of coverage I can get? And then we can look at all types of policies to determine, well, you know, this. It's always good to know what is the person's, what's their lifestyle. You know, like I wouldn't recommend a term for 20 years to an individual who has no child, live alone, making a fair income. I wouldn't recommend a term for 20 years. I would probably recommend an endowment for somebody like that who, because they don't have that. Of course, the situation can change, which allows for them to get additional different types of insurance. But I would recommend somebody like that. I would recommend that they do an endowment. So as they're going along, they may have a mother or father who's there. If it is they pass, the funds can go to them, but once they live for 20 years or 25 years, or even to age 65, they will get that fund. So it's, to some extent, it would be like an investment for them. An individual, however, who has 2, 3 children, not necessarily a very well-paying job, no huge savings or anything, I would recommend, I would actually recommend a term for them. And I could recommend the same 20 years term because they do have children. So it would be for them to ensure that as the children are growing up, for that 20 years, instead of having to spend, say, $200 or $300 on a policy, they can spend between $100 and $150 for a policy, get the $500,000 and recognize that these 2, 3, 4 children would have financial support in the event they're not around within that period while they're growing. Now, when the 20 years are over, the 15 years are over, these children are now adults, can fend for themselves, and that individual can now either do a whole life for themselves, endowment for themselves, and the children would have already passed that vulnerable stage. So they, you know, that is why I would have recommended a term for an individual like that. So it all depends on what's going on with an individual. I made the recommendation. So it's always good to have one-on-one conversations. What's your situation? Right now, what I did basically was to have a general look. This is what we have. This is what there is out there, because it's not even just what we have, but it's what other insurance companies have. So I'm not just saying, oh, you have to do Sagicor. I am not saying that at all. My recommendation would be yes. However, there are other insurances out there, other insurance policies. And I'm sure you would agree, it's not always a good idea to put everything, all your eggs in one basket. Is not. So, yeah. So, yes. All right. The wonderful thing, the question was, for those of us who didn't get it, is that if you were to take a loan on your insurance policy, because there are cash values in there, what would be, or how would you go about paying back? For our policies, Sagicor does not dictate a payment plan to you. It's your cash value, which was meant for the policy. You, Sagicor is saying, have become the investment. And so you, once you have that cash there in your hands, you would be paying 10% interest on that. So the thing is, the quicker you put that money's back, the quicker the 10% is not attached to you. Now, it would be that, and I'm going to use an example. You have an insurance policy for $100,000. You take $10,000 out of it for whatever reason. And so then automatically 10% gets charged to that amount that you have. What that means, if you don't pay that monies back, say in 5 years, and you happen to pass, what Sagicor simply does is that it says, okay, you took $10,000, you didn't pay it back. Over the years, the 10% would have been attached to it. For the 5 years that you didn't pay, you've now passed. So whatever that calculation is, I'm just going to call a figure. It's no longer 10,000. It's probably 1,300. I mean, $10,300. Not to 10,000. It could be 13,000 that's outstanding now. That is what would be deducted from your $100,000 that policy that you have. So instead of your beneficiary getting the 100,000 which you initially wanted, because you took the loan, they would probably get, you know, the $87,000, which would be the difference based on a $13,000 deduction rate. Yeah? So it's totally up to you. They don't dictate to you how you pay it back. I mean, I know people who have said, look, I don't pay all these years, I take in this, and let it go ahead work out the maths there. I'm going to enjoy this. They get the difference. I enjoy, and this is why I'm alive. Yeah.
And that is on the endowment policy?
That's on the endowment and the whole life policies. Both the whole life and the endowment policies attracts cash advances as time goes by. The endowments are more expensive, and so the cash advance the cash value, sorry, a figure on that increases quicker than the whole life because you pay less for that. And our terms, I want to say this again, you are able to convert it to convert them to either a whole life or endowment policy. Now I'm looking at this young guy, right? Maybe he has life insurance or not, but if I was him, young guy, right now, and he appears to have ambition, got things going on here, smart guy, I would literally do a policy for at least $500,000 now. Now I'm going to assume he's between 20 and 25. You don't have to tell me. But I'm going to assume he's between that age. And so I can say, and this is because you asked about figures, he would pay no more than $130 for $500,000 in coverage for a term now. He can do a term to age 80 with the option, or 65, 70, with the for 20 years, but I wouldn't recommend 20 years, with the option to convert it from a term to a whole life or an endowment later. He can do all that. Now he'll be paying this small sum, which allows him to, one, if he hasn't done school as yet, he's smart, he probably done went school. Done went college, huh? Yeah. Let's just say he done went college. Or even if he hadn't, he would be able to use that $500,000 when he goes, and if he goes to the bank for a loan, to say, yes, I have life insurance, so lend me the money to go to school. And of course, this is once he doesn't use that, those different things that the government has in place where you go off and when you come back you pay. You know, some of them don't give you, you don't need a loan. As well as you might say, no, I want to go to there, I am going to take a loan and do my thing. So yes, he can use that to get the loan because he has life insurance. If he passes, they will get their monies back. And remember, this school might just be, coverage might just be, I mean, the cost for the school might just be $120,000. This is me extending it. $70,000, $120,000, $150,000 for school. Coverage he has, remember I said, it's $500,000. That's $500,000. So, what happens if he passes? It means then the school takes, the bank takes back their money, and then the difference goes to his beneficiaries, parents, girlfriend, wife, if he's married, and all that. All right? Now, let's just say he does school. Remember, he has coverage for $500,000. He comes back, and he's ready to build. He's older now. He goes to the bank, now earning a little bit more money than he did because he went to school, come back and so on. He says he goes to the bank and he says he wants a loan to build a house. He already has life insurance. There's not going to be an extra cost. He's not going to have to go start over, especially if he goes out there and something happens to him, he becomes ill somehow, and the insurance wants to say, oh, you have to charge a little extra now. No, that will not happen because he already started when he was young, and he's already in there. So he will use that same policy now to build. Does not have to do a new policy like I did. Remember I tell you I have 3 insurance policies. I had to do another one because no one told me at that time, well, boy, you could do this. This is, if you do it like so, it can work and you wouldn't have to be going over all these kinds. So that same policy now that he used for school, he can now use it for construction of his home or to buy a home if it is he chooses to take that route. The point is to get a loan to cover for which falls right between the $500,000. Of course, if you want a $600,000, $700,000, you're going to need more insurance. But not as much because he already had this $500,000. Now, all the years pass and he's now earned he has work experience, he has earnings which is way better than when he started when he was younger, and he has coverage of $500,000. He now can do one of two things. He can make an investment of this policy. He can take some of it and make it an endowment policy so that when he hits age 65, insurance, investment, what that thing is, pension? Yeah. Pension time, he gets a lump sum of $250,000 in his hand. Or if he is earning so much he wants to do the full $500,000, he can do that. Because that is the type of policy that he would have gotten. Started with a term, small figure, But as things went on throughout his life, he was able to do different things with the same one policy. You had a question?
Yes. So my question is, if he takes the term policy, let's say, 15 years, he would have to convert before the 15 years is up.
If he took it for 15 years, yes. You have to convert it within the time frame. Now, remember the recommendation that I'm making for his policy would be at least to age 65, which considers like the period when a bank would lend you a loan for a home for anyway. Okay. Because they think that pension age and we want the money from you after you hit pension. Or you can go on to age 80 if he chooses. I have to say too that the rates between they're not very different, like that much difference. Yeah, especially if one is younger. Yeah. So you see, as I said, it all depends on what's happening with an individual. Different recommendations can be made. Yes.
When you go in to apply for life insurance,
yes,
they ask you all kind of questions.
Yes.
Like what you just do when if your parents them have diabetes or if
yes,
you have anybody. So what
yes,
is that for?
Okay. Remember I said that the insurance like to insure people who are healthy, and also that it relates to lifetime. The thought process is that an individual is expected to live a long time. Individuals normally, when they're in homes, they develop and have very much the same lifestyle, very often the same lifestyle of their parents, the persons who looked after them, their guardians. They're exposed to the same type of let me say, environmental expectations. When I say that, I mean my mother, when she cooks, she doesn't cook a pot and say, okay, I'm eating this and I'm going to cook this for you. No, she cook a pot and we all eat from the same pot. So whatever she was exposed to, whatever she ate and developed over time, whatever high blood pressure she get, heart issues based on her lifestyle, what she ate, what she was exposed to. Maybe she was living in this area that had some chemical thing leakage and she developed some issue. The thought process is that as it relates to hereditary reasons, the children might develop and could be exposed to these same things and could have the same issues later. And so hence the question is, what condition was your mother in, or what did they die from if they died? What's going on with them now? It's all about lifestyles. Say again? That determines the premium, yes. Or whether you even get it. Believe it or not, whatever has been happening with an individual's parent, I have had clients, and the underwriters are the ones who make the decision. Because you all know, left up to Harvest, everybody would get the policy. The underwriters them say, no, hold up. His mother had diabetes, and his father died from a stroke. Something went on in the home there, and there's a good chance that he could very well. So they consider that, and they consider the individual, what is their status. So mommy died from a stroke, mommy got a diabetes, father died from a stroke. But the son or daughter realizes mom and dad had these issues and they're taking care of themselves. Weight is good, eating properly, the pairs. When they look at the medical history, they haven't had any issues with headaches or any extra overweight and so then even though they look at it, it might not affect your premium. They might not say no, but they will be mindful that based on the family's history, the company might say, well, why? We may have to pay out so much and so much money to this, as far as this claim is concerned, based on what's happening. So it's information that helps them to decide not just the premiums, but also, well, the risks that they're taking.
So some people lie.
Say again?
So some people lie.
It's not even a maybe, no but, no ifs. It's a yes. Yes, they do. Especially once they are aware of this. Once they know. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't feel for some people when sometimes after they've shared the information and I explain as we're going through, they go like, well, take out that now. Like, I'm sorry, I can't take it out. You shouldn't have shared. And once you've shared, I have to record it.
I'm sure you use discretion though, because
I have to record.
Like, for example, my father, I think he had diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
I never lived with him. But if that were to be asked,
that is a comment that could be actually put in the remarks section of an application.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because these are things that are considered. So you make those statements. They look at everything. The fact that you mention it, I cannot say I didn't hear it. I am an individual of integrity. I have to say, sometimes it costs me because, it's commission, which I could have gotten some extra commission had I not put it in. But the fact that you mention it, I am going to record it. Yeah. If you forget to mention it, I will not be able to put it. But once you share, yeah, unfortunately. And then we put things in and then we hope for the best. We put the information there and hope they don't charge us extra. I mean, I've been in the field for a while, to be honest, and I've seen things. I have a pretty good idea how things could play out, but every now and again you get what you call like a shocker. Yeah, there's somebody who you thought, well, why? You are your house, and I'm going to be honest with you, there's a good chance this is what can happen. Based on how you look, based on the information you've shared, you could very well hear no, or they could charge you twice as much as what I quoted you, because there's a figure that I can quote based on the general information. So I would prep you, I would let you know this is what can happen. And then, I don't know, the underwriter might have been sleeping because previously other people had to do this. Like, 9 out of 10 of the people had to do this particular thing, and this one person, same situation, they think gone through clear as ever. I don't go back and say like, well, how come you think? No. So that they go like, oh yeah, we missed that. He can't get it either. I leave it. They make the decision. So yeah. Any other questions? Right. I'm going to thank you very much for having me. If it is that anyone needs to contact me, I'm sure the pastor would be able to share my information. I welcome that. I am not going to ask you to take your pens out and write down any numbers now. But yeah, I've shared some information. And so, even if not with my company, or with me individually, or with nationally individually, if you don't have life insurance, yes, we have the All-Father who would make sure that our souls are taken care of. But while we're here on earth, you should still consider, if you're able to, the physical aspects, if able to. And sometimes even if you feel as if you're not able to, say a prayer about it, the Lord will make a way. Yes, we know that. I'm just reinforcing. All right, thank you so much. I will say good evening.
Okay, we want to say thanks to Arvis at this time for having come and shared with us on the different insurance policies that we can invest in or take advantage of, and different investments that we have. And as I say, particularly for the younger people, yes, we can start now. I like the plan that he was talking about, 100 little for a 500,000 thing, and you can borrow loans on that or whatever. That sounds like a very good plan. Or a number of us here may not have any health insurance. Perhaps as a church, we could think of the group plan to see, how much we could benefit from that. Because if we were to take it on individually, it perhaps would be a tough one, but a lot of food for thought. And I like also the health insurance, because one of the issues we have with certain insurance is that depending on where you go, you have to find all the money up front. But if you have that card, which is recognized internationally and so forth, it takes the burden off you. So a lot of food for thought. And as Orvis says, I have his contact number. So, anybody who is interested and you want to talk with him, get some more clarity, he is ready, willing, and available. So we thank you very much for taking the time. We're really sorry that we couldn't have some things on the screen, because I really wanted us to see some figures that if you put in this is what it looks like over a number of years, so we could readily identify with it. But who knows? Maybe there's another time where we could get the figures on the screen, so that even if it's not a long presentation like this, we can see something that we can relate to. So we thank you again very much for taking the time out to share with us this evening. Yes, he says you're welcome. We're going to stand and be dismissed at this time. And I encourage you, take advantage, especially if you're very healthy. If you don't have any issues like me, who they're going to have a red flag, take advantage. Yes?
And if you have issues, you can do peace assured.
You can do the peace assured. Yes, that one. At least you have the coverage of up to 60,000. Yes? And it goes as years go by. I think that one is even better. Yes. No question asked. No question asked. So we can invest in it. I didn't know, brethren, that you could have more than one life insurance policy. I really didn't know until he told me that. So, yeah, more food for thought. Yes. And these days, life is so fickle. You're up today and all well, and tomorrow, and you need some help, something to rest back on. So we thank you very much for the knowledge that was imparted here this evening. We're going to be dismissed in prayer at this time. So bow your heads, close your eyes wherever you are. Father, we thank you that you are the all-knowledgeable God. We thank you that you created us in your image, in your likeness, and so you created us as intelligent beings. And you gave to us different abilities and different talents and knowledge. We thank you for Orvis and the knowledge that you have imparted and downloaded in him, so that he's able to share with us this evening on the various insurance options that are there and investments that we can all take advantage of. We thank you, Lord, for what we learned this evening, and even as we leave here, help us to go pondering and to see what we can really do and how much we can encourage somebody else who was not even here, but to let them know that there are things available out there that they can take advantage of. We pray, God, that you'll continue to bless him and strengthen him and give him what it takes to continue to work, to share the knowledge that you have given him, so that many others can be better off in life. We thank you for all of us who came out so that we could have learned more. And I pray, God, that you would grant us journeying mercies as we go to our various homes, that you'll cover us under your blood, you'll protect us from all accidents, incidents, harm and danger and evil, and that you'll give us restful nights. You tell us in your word that you give your beloved sleep. And so we pray, God, that you'll grant sleep to us, and that you would help, Father, that even our very situations around us in our homes would be still, would be calm, so that we would be able to rest. Bless us as a people and glorify yourself in and through us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. And now may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, the fellowship of the Holy Spirit, rest, remain, and abide with us now and forevermore. Amen. Good evening. Get home safely. God bless you.